Well, thank you very much, and thank you, Randy. It's a true honor to be here today to receive the endorsement of the proud American patriots at the NRA. These are great patriots. These are great people, and we're going to do things like nobody can believe. We're going to win this election at levels that nobody's ever seen before. But thank you very much for that endorsement. It means a lot to me. You know, when I started off, as you know, in 2016, I got that endorsement early, and I got it. Some people thought they had it made, but we got it. We got it again, and we've lived up to everything, as you know, everything I said. They just were under siege with the guns, the rifles, and everything else. We're under siege, but they didn't move us an inch, and we have to stand strong. You know that? We have to stand very strong. So thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. The NRA has stood with me from the very beginning, and with your vote, I will stand strong for your rights and liberties. And 4 more years in the White House, we're going to do things like nobody can believe. We're going to turn our country around. We're going to, quite simply, make America great again. But one thing I'll say, and I say it as friends, we've got to get gun owners to vote. Because you know what? I don't know what it is. Perhaps it's a form of rebellion, because you're rebellious people, aren't you? But gun owners don't vote. What is that all about? I've heard that. I heard it a few weeks ago. If the gun owners voted, we would swamp them at levels that nobody's ever seen before. So I think you're a rebellious bunch. But let's be rebellious and vote this time, okay? If you go out and vote, I understand exactly why you don't, but we have to win this election. It's the most important election in the history of our country. You've got to get all your friends, all the gun owners. They have to go and they have to vote. If they vote, there's nobody that can beat us, nobody. So it's very important. And I want to thank the NRA President, Charles Cotton, your first Vice President, Bob Barr, and interim Executive Vice President, Andrew Arula-Andom, who's a terrific group of people. That's a terrific group of people. We're also grateful to be joined by a very special man. He's a hot politician, very hot. Governor Greg Abbott. Where is he? He's around here someplace. He's around here. Thank you, Greg. You're a hot politician, Greg. You know why he's hot? Because he's doing a good job. That's a good reason, right? Right, Doc Ronnie? Thank you very much, Greg. Appreciate it. Great job. Also, a friend of mine is the chairman of our campaign in Texas, and we're 2-0, and we have lots of people running. And so far, I think we're 51-0 in Texas. I don't know. I like Texas, and they like me. Somehow it works together. But this man is very, very strong, very popular. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Thank you, Dan. Very strong guy, very popular guy. Thank you very much. Great job. How are we doing, Dan? Are we doing okay? We're way up in Texas. We're way up. Thank you very much. And members of Congress here, we have a lot of them, but a few of them I'm going to introduce. We also have senators, and we're going to just introduce a small group because we have to get on about our business, don't we? Huh? Members of Congress. The only man to hit a ball in Washington out of the stadium, he hit a home run, slow pitch. You know, they play the Democrats. And slow pitch meaning about 55 or 60 miles an hour, not that slow, but nobody's ever hit a home run over the fences except this one man, and he was wearing a Maga hat. So I didn't know him at the time, but I said, who's the guy that hit the home run? This was a couple of years ago. He hit it right over the fences in the deepest part of the park. And that's not an easy thing to do for a civilian. You know, if you're a baseball player, you can do it. If you're a civilian, you're not supposed to be able to do it. But he was wearing that beautiful red MAGA hat, and I said, who is that guy? And his name's Greg Stubbe, and he's here today, and he's my friend with his incredible wife. Thank you, Greg Stubbe. Where are you, Greg? Where's Greg? What a shot that was. When they wear a hat that says MAGA, that means they're with us all the way. They're with us. Thank you, Greg. Also, a terrific congressman and a friend of yours, very good friend of you and the state and the country, Pat Fallon. Pat, thank you, Pat. Great, Pat. Great job. Another man, he was the doctor for, I don't think any of you have ever heard of this gentleman, Barack Hussein Obama. Has anyone ever heard of Barack Hussein? No, he was the doctor, very talented doctor too. You know, he's got a lot of things on his resume. He was a great doctor, he was a great admiral, and now he's a great congressman. And before I introduce him, I just want to say, when he was the doctor at the White House, they asked him, who's healthier? Who's a better physical specimen? Is it Trump or is it Obama? And he said, it's not even close. It's Donald Trump, not even close. I said, I love this guy. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, your congressman, great congressman from Texas. Then he had to louse it up. You know what he did? He said, and he'd live for 200 years, except he likes junk food, so he might only live to 110. Can you believe? Huh? I do like junk food. Who doesn't? A real good friend of mine, an incredible Republican, conservative, really a person that loves our country more than anything else, happens to solidly reside in the state of Texas, the president of the America First Policy Institute. What she's done is incredible. She has taken the Policy Institute and brought it to a level that nobody thought possible, and fairly quickly, too, I would say. Brooke Rollins. Brooke? Thank you. Thank you, Brooke. She could run any company in America, but I don't want to say that because I don't want her stolen away from me. Texas legislature candidates who have my complete and total endorsement: David Covey, Alan Schoolcraft, where is Alan? Alan Schoolcraft, Helen Kerwin, and Brent Hagenboo. Where are you? Stand up. Oh, there they are. And David is leading very substantially an absolutely terrible Speaker of the House who didn't want to go into voter fraud. He didn't want to do it. And David, raise your hand, David, because David's leading very, very substantially against your Speaker of the House. And I see the recent polls, but still, it's about a week away. They all have my complete and total endorsement. They're phenomenal people, and they're going to do really, really well. And we appreciate you being with us. Thank you. And good luck in a week from now. Good luck. You're going to win big. You're all going to win big. We have to get your Speaker out of there so that we can go into voter fraud. Because, you know, even though we win Texas, Dallas and Houston, those areas, a lot of bad things happening, right, Dan? You know, they have a lot of bad things happening, and we got to stop it before it gets out of control, and they will do that. Also, a man, you know, he was operating a piece of equipment, a big hauler, a big truck. He was a truck guy, a real truck guy, not like Biden. You know, Biden says, I drive trucks. I drive trucks. I used to drive an 18-wheeler. He doesn't know what he said. He didn't. No, he always says that. He said, I used to drive an 18-wheeler. When the truckers come in, that's what he says. When the pilots come in, I used to fly a plane. No, it's true. He's misinformation. I was going to say he's full of bullshit, but I don't want to use bad language because there are a lot of young. No, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. Well, I played golf today with a really good golfer, Tony Romo. Do you know Tony Romo? He may be a better golfer than a football player. I don't know. But we played really today. We were talking about the state. We were talking about a lot of things, and we were at a wonderful course very nearby, and we had a tremendous amount of support from the people at that club. I'll tell you, it's amazing. They love this state. They love your governor, your lieutenant governor. They love this country. It's a beautiful thing to see, really beautiful. But, you know, Biden, he said his biggest lie of all, because I'm a nice golfer, is the expression goes. We have another nice golfer here, by the way, Mr. Steve Witkoff and his son Alex. He's a nice golfer. And he's one of the most successful businessmen in the country. He flew in just to spend some time because he's a big believer in the NRA. But Biden, his biggest lie of all, he said he's a 6.2 handicap golfer. This guy couldn't break 200. I really mean it. And he actually challenged me. You know, last week we're going to have debates with him, and that was good. That's good. I think we're going to, you know, he's still looking for that white stuff that was found in the White House. He said, where is it? It never arrived. It never arrived. They can't find it. Everyone thought it was for Hunter. Maybe it wasn't for Hunter. I think it was for somebody else. But he said 6.2, you know, so usually a guy's a 6 or 7 or an 8. I played golf for a long time. I won a lot of golf. 31 club championships, can you believe it? And he challenged me to a golf match. He said, I'll give him 3 aside. The guy can't break 200. Here's his swing. I'm very good at imitating swings. It's not just... Oh, no. Well, you ask Tony Romo about that. He'll tell you about Trump. But, no, but that's his biggest lie, 6.2. He's got to be 6.2. You know why? 6.2 is like totally accurate, you know, down 0.2. I never even heard of that before. Who's a 6.2? But this gentleman that is from North Carolina got up and made a speech, and the place said, why aren't you running for office? And he gave it a shot. He ran for lieutenant governor. So he went from a tractor. He was a very good operator right here. It was a forklift, and a good one, a big one, and he had a great job. But he made a speech. I think he was protesting taxes or something in North Carolina, and he took the place by storm. One of the most beautiful, resonant voices you've ever heard. He stood up. I said, I think I'm going to really insult him by saying this. It's possible that I will, and I didn't want to do that. And you know, we're doing well with the black voter. They can't even believe it. They love Trump, and I love them. But I said to this man, and when he endorsed me, he gave a speech, and I said, you are Dr. Martin Luther King on steroids. That's how good you are. You are unbelievable as a speaker. And he got up, and he's doing fantastically well in North Carolina, and I think he's going to be the next governor of North Carolina, Mark Robinson. And a very popular guy. How's it going? Good? The polls are looking good, I hear, yes? You got to hear this guy speak. Anyway, he's going to be speaking at the convention very loudly and beautifully, and we look forward to that. We're going to have a great convention in Milwaukee, and we're not doing one, you know, they're going to do a Zoom convention, I hear, because, you know, they're blaming the pickets, the riots, whatever they might want to blame. The real problem is he doesn't want to get up and speak. He doesn't want to walk. He can't walk from that stair to this podium. He can't put 2 sentences together. Even his challenge on the debate, it took him 7 shots. They have 7 different clips. For more than 150 years, the NRA has been defined by men and women like all of you, loyal, hardworking citizens who believe in defending your families and your communities and our country. RFK Jr., I call him Junior. By the way, he's radical left. Don't think about it. Don't waste your vote. We need a conservative person with common sense. This guy is radical left who destroyed New York. They're taking down all of the energy components. We have the highest, and all of New England, actually. He's a disaster. He's radical left. RFK Jr. is radical left. It reminds me of this fly that's driving me crazy up here. This fly is brutal. I don't like flies. But RFK Jr. calls you a terrorist group. You know, he calls you a terrorist group. Can't vote for him. You can't, you know. somebody said, well, they like his policy on vaccine. The other day, he said, no, he'll go for the vaccine. He's got no policy on anything. He's radical left. He always has been. His family is angry at him because he's doing this. They won't talk to him because they said, where the hell did this come from? And for some reason, he's getting probably a little bit more, hurting Biden a little bit more, but we can't waste any votes. We have to make sure we win. And I'm meeting, I don't know if you read, but I'm meeting next week, very soon, with the Libertarians, because largely they have so much of what we have. You know, they're also people of common sense, generally speaking. They have a couple of things that are a little different, but we have to join with them because they get their 3% every year, no matter who's running. And we have to get that 3% because we can't take a chance on Joe Biden winning. He's the worst president in the history of our country by far. We can't have it. But RFK Jr. says bad things. He calls you a terrorist group, and I call you the backbone of America. That's a big difference, wouldn't you say? But under crooked Joe Biden, everything you stand for is under threat like never before. Our Second Amendment, which is largely why you're here, I mean, that's the biggest statement for you. You know, when I go and make speeches at different places, it's always important, but today, this is the big statement. It's under siege. Second Amendment is under siege. Our Constitution is being run through the shredder. Our borders have been obliterated. Inflation continued to rage, and it's raging right now again. And they shouldn't lower the interest rates because they're going to have to stop it. But he's going to lower it just for purposes of trying to win an election, just like he went into the strategic reserves to try and win an election and let this stuff that's supposed to be used for war and national emergencies to try and keep the gas prices down. And now we have the lowest strategic reserves we've ever had. Our country is going to hell. Rapacious gangs and ruthless criminals are terrorizing our streets, and crooked Joe Biden's weakness has us teetering on the edge of World War III. You know, I've gotten to know the leaders of the world very well. The ones in South America that are sending all of their criminals and their prisoners and their gangs into our country intelligently. I'd do the same thing if I was there. I would do the same. I'd do it faster than them. But they're sending everybody into our country. I mean, think of it. We have these people coming into our country. We don't want them in our country. They're from prison. They're gang members. They're drug dealers. They're rapists. We have people coming into our country. No country can sustain what's happening to us, and they don't check them. They have no idea who they are. It's not just South America. It's all over the world. It's time for a president who will replace weakness with strength, turn poverty to prosperity, and vanquish Joe Biden's corrupt tyranny with a great restoration of American freedom. We have to do that. From the very first day that we take back the White House, I believe we are going to have the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. And it's hard to believe when you look at what's happening right now with the inflation and the bad economy. And one of the greatest, I'll just say Scott, I call him Scott. He's one of the great prognosticators on Wall Street, one of the smartest people on Wall Street. He said the only reason the stock market's doing well is because Trump is leading in all of the polls. If Trump wasn't leading in all of the polls, and if Trump doesn't win, you're going to have a collapse like in 1929. So just remember, he said it, but I said it too. I really believe it. I believe it. That's the only thing that's doing well is the stock market. It's doing well because we're doing well. We had a great stock market. But if it didn't happen, it's going to be a very bad time, I think, for our country. But to achieve the future, you have to march into the voting booth and you have to tell crooked Joe Biden, Joe, you're doing a horrible job. You're a horrible president. Like The Apprentice, Joe, you're fired. Get out of here, Joe. You're fired. And let there be no doubt, the survival of our Second Amendment is very much on the ballot. You know what they want to do. They're going to Oh, if they get in, our country is going to be destroyed in so many ways, but the Second Amendment will be, it's under siege. But with me, they never get anywhere, and we need that Second Amendment for safety, forgetting about even going hunting and all of the things that you do. We need it for safety. Because, you know, the bad guys are not giving up their guns. You know that. The bad ones are not giving up their guns. Oh, they will be so happy. If the Biden regime gets 4 more years, they are coming for your guns, 100% certain. Crooked Joe has a 40-year record of trying to rip firearms out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. He's always wanted to do that. And you can't do it. You know, we're the party of common sense now. It's like, I call it the party of common sense. We're conservative and all of that. But we want borders. We want good elections. We have to have a Second Amendment that's meaningful. If we don't, we're going to have levels of death and destruction like this country has never seen before. We're the party of common sense. As we speak, the Biden administration is trying to crush independent firearms dealers by revoking their licenses if they make a single error, even in very unimportant paperwork. You know that. Are there any people in here that have that happen? Because 5 hands go up. It's sad. No, they want to take away your rights. Well, I know that better than anybody. They want to take away my rights better than anybody. Worse than Alphonse Capone. Al Capone was indicted twice. I got indicted 4 times. I never heard the word. What's an indictment? What's an indictment, please? Think of it, I go years and years, I go through all sorts of stuff in New York. I built buildings with the unions, with all the people that are involved. It's a rough business. I never had a question about me. All of a sudden, within a period of like a little tiny period, I got indicted 4 times, and on a civil basis 4 or 5 times, with it all being run from the White House and the DOJ. And I say, Alphonse Capone, the meanest, roughest, most horrendous. I'm looking at some of the people here, like this gentleman, rough guy. Rough guy, he's a rough stand-up. But you know what? You don't want to have dinner with Al Capone, I can tell you that, right? He wouldn't like you. You look too good. He wouldn't like you. He'd say, let's get rid of that guy. Al Capone, so remember Scarface, right? Scarface. He is a scar that went from here to here. And he was rough. But he got indicted less than I did. Think of this. My father is up in heaven, and my mother. And my father was tough, but he was a good man. He was a good person, so I know he's in heaven. My mother, I guarantee it. My father, I think. Okay. I think. I'm pretty sure. But he was great. He was a great guy. And they're looking down on me right now. They say, can you believe it, darling? My son, he got indicted so much. And I heard they were going to try and do it a couple of more times, and the White House said, don't do it, don't do it. You're indicting this guy into the White House. There's a little truth to that. There's a little truth. But we have the highest poll numbers we've ever had. We have the highest poll numbers we've ever had. And, you know, there are those, I don't want to ever say this, you know, being, I don't know if this is wood or plastic. You can't tell nowadays. I think it's plastic. Is there any wood around? Oh, there's a piece. But we have the best poll numbers we've ever had. And I think a lot of it is the weaponization of justice, or as I call it, the weaponization of injustice, because that's what it is. And they'll use that on these great congressmen that I just introduced. Because I have a platform that's a very big platform, and I can tell and talk to the voters, whether it's on television or I can do whatever, I can get it out, and I have done it, and probably a pretty good job. You see this case that's in New York, this fake case with a highly conflicted judge, so conflicted, there's probably no judge maybe in history that's been as conflicted as this guy, and he refuses to recuse himself. But I'm able to talk about things, although I do have a gag order. I can't talk about the things I want to talk about, because what I talk about is just on the surface. Because if I go in, they want to put me in jail. Can you believe? They want to put me in jail if I say the truth. So I can't talk about certain things. It says you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that, you can't talk. But those are the best things. But we talk about the things I can talk about. It has to be unconstitutional. Can you imagine? You've won the Republican nomination for President of the United States, and you have a local judge appointed by Democrat politicians. He was appointed. He didn't win the election. He's appointed. And he says, I'm going to put a gag order on the Republican Party's presidential candidate. Think of that. I'm going to put a gag order. So when people ask me questions, I'll have to say, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. And they're easy questions. They're like softballs. They're so easy to answer. But I'm able to speak to the people, and the people understand, and we're well into the 80s and even more than that, and they see how fake it is. And so many of the politicians, like the ones I just mentioned, and others, many of them that aren't here from all over the country, they go to the trial and they watch what's going on. But we had a big day on Friday, didn't we? Didn't we have a big day? But they want to rig that just like they rigged the presidential election of 2020. They want to rig it. This is their form of rigging, and it only happens in third world countries. Never happened here. It's a disgrace what's going on. But with me in the White House, the radical gun grabbers will run straight into a very, very powerful brick wall. Their dreams of taking away your God-given rights will die when the polls close on November 5th, 2024. Those dreams that they have will be dead. They will be dead dreams. Every promise I made, every single promise I made to you as a candidate, I kept as your president. Look at all the things we did. Taxes. Think of it. Biggest tax cut in history, biggest regulation cuts in history, greatest economy in the history of our country. Larry Kudlow was on last night. He was on, I think, Sean Hannity, another great guy. We're a lot of good people out there. We have a lot of great people that get the word out. But Larry Kudlow was out, and he was comparing our economy to Biden's economy. He says, not even close. I mean, we had the greatest economy ever, and he's got an economy that is so bad with inflation, no matter what happened, you can never override. Inflation is a country buster. It has been for hundreds of years. You go back to Germany of old, it's a country buster, and it's busting our country, and it's destroying our people. Just as I pledged back in 2016, I appointed nearly 300 pro-Constitution judges to interpret the law as written. It's a record, by the way. And I faced down vile attacks from the radical left to confirm 3 great Supreme Court justices, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. They're great. Oh, they were thrilled when I got 3. You know, a lot of presidents get none because they stay in office. They're usually appointed at a young age. It's interesting. I have a friend in New York. He wanted to be a judge so bad, and when he, great lawyer, actually. When I won, he called me. He said, wow, do you believe it? A big real estate lawyer, phenomenal talent, and 69 years old. He said, unbelievable how you did this. Can I be honest? I'd love to give up my practice. He makes a lot of money. I'd like to give up my practice, and I'd like to run. I'd like to be a judge. I'd be a great judge, and he would be a great judge. And I called my people, and I told him, don't worry about it. You're going to be a judge. Congratulations. Then I called up my people and I said, I have a guy from New York who's an incredible lawyer, he's got the right temperament, he'd be a really great judge. Oh, good, sir. How old is he? I said, he's 69, sir. So he's going to be there for 2, 3, 4 years. We like people in their 30s, so they're there for 50 years or 40 years. We don't want, and as soon as they said that, I realized, yeah, they're exactly right. So I called up my friend, I said, you're phenomenal, we love you, love you, love you, but will you guarantee that you're going to be there for 25 years? Well, I can't do that. Good. Then I can't appoint you. It's sort of a shame, actually. He would have been great. But, you know, after 3, 4 years, I say, I think I want to move to Texas, and I want to retire in Texas. A lot of people are moving to Texas. Standing before you at the NRA Leadership Forum in 2019, I revoked America's signature from the globalist United Nations Armed Trade Treaty, which was one of the worst things to happen. But we revoked it. I stood up for our hunters, fishers, and sportsmen like never before. No president has ever stood up for you, the people in this room, like I did, opening up millions of acres of federal land and rolling back Barack Hussein Obama's assault on hunting, fishing, and trapping. It was an assault. He didn't want you to hunt. Why? I don't know. They usually blame the environment. It's the environment. And I stopped cold their efforts to take away your ammunition. You know, those efforts are big. The ammunition, has anyone noticed? They're going after the ammunition. When the radical left Democrats tried to use COVID to shut down gun sales during the China virus, I proudly designated gun and ammunition retailers as critical infrastructure so they couldn't touch it. They tried. Many of the gun dealers are in this room. They came up to me backstage, a couple of them I met. I said, I was so honored to be called critical. I was critical. He was critical. I've never been called critical in my life. You gave me this powerful designation. But we did that, and it really worked. Word critical was very important, because that's what it is. We have to save our country. My administration also petitioned the Supreme Court to overturn New York City's unconstitutional ban on transporting handguns outside the home. They say you can't do it, and we overturned it. And in a landmark case 2 years ago, the court affirmed that the right to self-defense does not end when you step outside the front door of your house. We won it. In my second term, we will roll back every Biden attack on the Second Amendment. The attacks are fast and furious, starting the minute that Crooked Joe shuffles his way out of the White House. At noon on Inauguration Day, we will sack the anti-gun fanatic Steve Dettelbach. Have you ever heard of him? He's a disaster. And replace him with an ATF director who respects the sacred rights to keep and bear arms. And remember, every single thing I told you, I did. That's one of the big things, is that when I first ran, we ran, and when I first ran, nobody, you know, I did great in business and did a lot of success, even in show business with The Apprentice and all, but, you know, I never did this before. And I said I was going to do certain things. Every single thing, virtually every single thing that I said we're going to give you the biggest tax cuts. I said we're going to give you the biggest regulation cuts. I said we're going to give you Space Force. We're going to rebuild our military, which we did. I said we were going to build hundreds of miles of wall, which we did. We had 200 miles of wall ready to go. And they decided, then we had the rigged election, and they decided not to put them up. And they sold that very expensive wall. It's exactly what the Border Patrol wanted. Exactly. I wanted nice, beautiful 40, 50-foot concrete plank. They didn't like that. And I did everything they wanted. Even the repellent panel on the top, it stops you. It's called an anti-climb panel. You can't climb over it. We had people that climbed Mount Everest. We had all different walls built so that we got the best one. They couldn't climb this one. And I didn't like the panel on top. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but there's an anti-climb panel on top, but it makes it very hard for people to get over the walls. They could scoot up those walls. It was incredible. And we built everything, and now you know what they did? We had 200 miles that would have been put up. We built 571 miles of wall, and we had the safest border in history. I got Mexico to give us soldiers, all of the things I did. But these people, they took the 200 miles of wall that could have been flipped up and thrown up, and they were sitting there ready to be installed, and they sold it for 5 cents on the dollar. I don't even know what the hell does anybody want that wall for, right? Maybe other countries are buying it to use for their wall. Probably that's it, for 5 cents on the dollar. On day one, we will seal the border. We will stop the invasion, and we will send Joe Biden's illegal aliens back home right where they belong. Right where they belong. They're going back home where they belong. And we start with the criminals, and there are many, many criminals. Less than 4 years ago, we had the most secure border in U.S. history. We ended catch and release, built tremendous numbers of miles of border wall like nobody thought possible. I took it out of the military because I considered it an invasion of our country. And I got Mexico to send 28,000 soldiers to our border free of charge. Do you think that was easy to do? I told the president of Mexico. I need 28,000 soldiers free of charge to guard our border. Oh, Donald, oh, President. He was laughing. He thought I was kidding. I said, no, they have to be free of charge. You'll do it. I know you'll do it. There's no question that you're going to do it. They come through Mexico along with the drugs, which, by the way, are now 10 times greater coming through, fentanyl and all, coming through our border than it was just 4 years ago. 10 times greater. It's even more than that, I believe, but they're estimating at least 10 times. But I said, I need your soldiers, and you'll give them to us free of charge. He said, no, 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 I will not do that, Donald. He thought it was so funny. I said, do me a favor. And he's a friend of mine. He's a good guy. He's a radical socialist, and that's fine. I don't care. I don't care. But he was a good guy. I said, do me a favor. Look, I don't like negotiating with you. It's sort of unpleasant. I want to negotiate with you people. And I said, so do you have somebody that can negotiate a little bit on this subject and others? And he said, yes, I will send Jose whoever to see you. And a few days later, a man comes into Washington. He had the most beautiful clothing I've ever seen. I'm telling you, he was wearing suits. In fact, other than it probably would sound bad for the negotiation, I wanted to ask him, who is your tailor? But I didn't think that was a good way to start off the negotiation. And I said to him, I want to do this. I went to the Border Patrol and ICE, who are phenomenal people. And I went to everybody who has anything to do with the border and our country and safety and immigration. I said, give me a top 10 list. I want everything. I want everything. I'll get it all. Sir, you won't get any of this stuff. We've been trying to get it for 30 years from Mexico. I said, that's okay. 100% I'll get it. Anyway, they gave us stay in Mexico policy. In other words, people have to stay in Mexico. They don't come into our country. They stay in Mexico. And they gave us catch and release into Mexico, not catch and release into our country. They gave us many things, various illness situations where people that are ill with contagious diseases, right, Doc Ronnie? They pour into our country it's like, let's just accept everybody and let's spread illness all over our country. So we had that taken care of. We had everything. We had 10. So the guy comes in from Mexico, and I say, here's what I want. I want 28,000 soldiers free of charge. I want remain in Mexico. I want catch and release into Mexico. They never heard of this. And he's like, he's going, President, we won't do that. Why would we do this? Are we stupid? Why would we do this? I said, you're going to do it 100%. Why, you don't think you're going to do it? Of course you're going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. I said, yes, you are going to do it 100%. He goes, no way. I said, way. I said, way, you're going to do it. And now he's not laughing at me because he's trying to figure, what the hell's going on with this guy? He's saying no, and I'm saying yes. I said, no, 100% you're going to do it. He said, no, I'm not. And I said, here's what's happening. It's Friday evening. On Monday morning at 7 o'clock, every single car that you send into our country, you know, they've stolen 32% of our car industry over the years, not during my administration, by the way. But over the years, they've taken a huge chunk out of Michigan. And by the way, that's why I'm leading in Michigan, because people see what they've done to the jobs and the cars and the building, the manufacturing of cars is just horrible. And Mexico has taken a tremendous amount of that business away. I mean, they're building massive car plants again in Mexico. I had it stopped. Some of the biggest plants in the world. You know who's building a lot of them? China is building car plants in Mexico to sell cars into the United States. And I told them the other day, don't do it because you're going to be charged 100% tariff, which makes it impossible to sell the cars into our, and you're building these big monster plants and you're wasting a lot of money doing it because we're not going to accept any of those cars. We're not going to lose our jobs to monster plants that are being built along the border to sell into the United States because they have a guy like Crooked Joe Biden as president who's accepted money. He's a Manchurian candidate. He's accepted money from China, from Russia, from Ukraine, from everywhere. If that were a Republican, he would have been given the electric chair. They would have brought back the death penalty. What he's gotten away with, he's the most crooked. He's also the most crooked president we've ever had. And to spin it a little bit, he is a threat to democracy. You know, they like to say, I'm a threat to democracy. What the hell have I done? All I've done is we had no wars, except we defeated ISIS, and we defeated them brutally and quickly. And I said to this handsome, beautiful, well-dressed man, no, you're going to do that because on Monday morning we're putting a tariff of 25% on everything that comes in, and then a month later it's going to 50, and then a month later it goes to 75, and then a month later it goes to 100, and that's where I'm going to stop. I think that's enough. And that's more money than the money we're asking for, the 28,000 soldiers and the other things, by a factor of about 5. And it's going to take place on Monday morning. And I had an order on my desk. And I said, I'm signing the order right now so you can see it. Oh, but Mr. President, may I please take 5 minutes to make a call back to my country? And I said, let me guess, you're going to call the president, my friend, who is my friend. He's a great guy, but he likes Mexico and I like us. I mean, what can I tell you, right? That's the deal. Just like President Xi. He likes China, and I like the USA. That's why they paid billions of dollars that no other president got 10 cents. So, may I take a moment to make a call? Yes, you may. Please hurry up because I have other appointments. He comes back about 3 minutes later. We have decided to provide you, sir, with 28,000 soldiers free of charge, of course. And it is our great honor to do so. And in addition to that, we will have a stay in Mexico policy where all of these criminals that are coming into our country will stay in Tijuana. You had to see Tijuana. This was breathtaking to see this. They weren't allowed into our country. Got everything. And the woman from the State Department, a very nice woman, very, very good, very loyal to the country, but a lousy negotiator. She said, I've been working on this for 25 years. I said, I've been working on it for about 2 hours and I got everything. I got everything. And then when divide our country. This guy, this horrible guy, indicted a man that's running for office on the two-party system. Always going to be a two-party system, by the way. They can have all the games they want, but we have a two-party system. It was devised that way. That's good. That's fine. But they took the leading candidate who has the Republican, essentially has the Republican nomination, and very importantly, is leading their candidate by a lot. We're leading in every poll, every single poll, leading in the swing states, everything. And they've indicted him, so they did this in order to hurt his political opponent. This is a political thing. The indictments are nonsense, and you see that when you watch the television and the news reports, even though fake news CNN and fake tech, do you know fake Tapper is going to be one of the people? But they said to me the other day, sir, CNN with fake tap, and he is a fake, but let's see how he does. I think he's under a lot of pressure, to be fair. But fake Tapper is going to be heading up the team that interrogates you. I said, that's okay. I accept the debate. I accept it. You know why? Because nobody thought he was going to debate. They didn't think I'd accept it. I accept. Then another one called. They put out another one. I said, I accept. They didn't even tell me where it was, who it was. I didn't care. What the hell difference does it make? I mean, you know. So we did something that they were shocked at. They had no idea that, you know, they figured, well, we're not going to do CNN, and we're not going to have Tapper be the guy, and we're not going to have other people involved in that show that, you know, they thought there was no negotiation. I said, I accept anything you want. Let's debate. And now they're shocked. They don't know what the hell to do because they have a debate. But just remember this. We'll go back and finish. You know, there is a genius to what I'm doing. You do know that. I go from here to there, and it all comes back into a beautiful picture. You know, it really, do you notice? It all comes back into a beautiful picture, great memory. It's a beautiful thing. But remember what they're going to do. If this horrible, low IQ individual who's representing us, if this horrible person who's done such a bad job, worst president in history by far, if this horrible individual finishes the debate, which I think he will, if he's standing, they'll say it was a brilliant performance. It was a brilliant performance. They've never seen anything like it. Very much reminiscent of the days of FDR. You know, FDR was had a beautiful patrician voice, magnificent voice, great debater, very smart man. You know, FDR, 16 years, almost 16 years. He was 4-term. I don't know. Are we going to be considered 3-term or 2-term? You tell me. Ronnie, what do you think? Are we 3-term or 2-term if we win? But think of it. They're going to say, wonderful. Now, he did the State of the Union the other day. He was high as a kite. So I think we should call for drug tests on the debate. Yeah? We're going to call for drug tests. We're going to call for drug tests. So anyway, so Macron calls. See what I mean? Look, I started. Even I say to myself, you're a frickin' genius. Hey, look, I had an uncle, my father's brother, who's the longest-serving president. He's the longest-serving professor in the history of MIT. He graduated. He was a phenomenal student, a real genius, really brilliant guy. And, you know, I believe in the racehorse theory. Fast horses produce fast horses. He went to MIT, graduated. They said, we'd love to have you be a professor. He was there for, I think, 41 years. He's the longest-serving professor in the history of MIT. It's nice to know. Do you think Biden has that in his family? I don't think so. I don't think so. I may be wrong. Let's check. Let's check. So Macron calls me back. See, this is the final of the stories. Macron calls me back, and he said, Donald, we have agreed to do what you want. We will not charge the tax. How sad is that? There are so many different things, like buying Air Force One, saying I'm not going to pay for it, and not signing the contract. I said, who negotiated the contract? Barack Hussein Obama. then I'm not signing it. Well, why would you do that? Because I know it's too expensive. I didn't know anything about the plane. It's too expensive. And I was able to cut $1.6 billion off the price over a period of 2 months with Boeing. We have a lot of stories we could tell. But the saddest thing of all is that crooked Joe Biden has turned your state and the entire country into a dumping ground for the world. In Venezuela, violent crime is down at levels that they've never seen before. It was 67% 3 weeks ago. It's now down to 72%. It's down. Violent crime is down. Where'd you ever hear that? You know, if it goes down 1%, we say, oh, it's so great. Down 72% because all of their inmates, their mental patients, and the dreck from deep in the basements of their most vile prisons, and they're depositing them all into our country. All their gang members in Caracas, Venezuela. Caracas, wonderful city if you'd like to. Actually, it's going to turn out to be a lot safer than our cities because all the criminals are being sent to us. In fact, I'll invite you. In fact, I have an idea for the NRA. Let's have the next year's meeting in Venezuela where it's going to be a lot safer than our country. Venezuela will have no crime because all of their criminals will be deposited, so Ronnie will go together. Okay, Congressman Fallon, we're going to go together. We'll all take a trip together, and we're going to go, and we're going to get Dan and the whole group, and we're going to go to Venezuela because we want a crime-free environment, okay? That's what's happening. That's what's happening. Think of it. They're down 72% now from last year in violent crime. Biden wants to disarm American citizens while he floods our country with Biden migrant crime. Now, while we're here, has anyone ever heard of the snake? The snake. Should I do it now or not? Should I? I mean, look, let's face it. It's a Saturday afternoon. We have nothing to do. It's like a time, it's sort of like a Death Valley time. You know, in television terms, they call it Death Valley. When you're on Saturday afternoon, they say you got Death Valley. So let's do this. It's better, right? Isn't this better than going home and turning on television and falling asleep, being bored? Do it? Yes, yes, yes. So this is sort of a metaphor, and it has to do with immigration, and it has to do with the people coming into our country that are wrong. You can't let criminals into our country and expect good things to happen. It's the snake. It was an old rock and roll song, not having anything to do with what we're talking about, and we made certain changes, and it's pretty good, and I think it describes it, and people like it, and they like it a lot, although they're very sad when they hear it because it's what's happening. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty-colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. "Poor thing," she cried, "I'll take you in and I'll take care of you. Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and soon as she arrived, she found the pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. "Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed that vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. "You're so beautiful," she cried, "but if I hadn't brought you in by now, you truly would have died." She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed and held him tight. But instead of saying, "Thank you, ma'am," the snake gave her a vicious bite. "Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. "I saved you," cried the woman, "and you've bitten me. But why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. Right? That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. We're allowing terrorists into our country. We're allowing prisoners and people from mental institutions and insane asylums into our country. And nothing good is going to happen. It's actually a very accurate portrayal of what we're waiting for. We're 100% going to be in big, big trouble. And they're building in numbers that you've never seen before. Even large numbers of Chinese warriors are flowing into our country. They're all aged from 19 to 25. And almost every one of them is a man. What's that all about? 29,000 over the last month and a half. 29,000 people from China, all men, strong as hell. I looked at them the other day on television. I looked at them, I said, wow, they're pretty strong. What are they doing, building a little army in our backyard? How stupid are these people? How stupid. You know, we're the party of common sense. And I say, it's so important because common sense is the key. Not even conservative, we're very conservative, all that stuff. But we're really common sense. Who wants to have an open border where people can come in totally unchecked, unvetted? Who wants to have high interest rates, high taxes? Who wants to have men being able to play in women's sports? Who wants to have that? Who really wants to have that? Think of it. Who wants it? We're joined today by a very proud Texan, Debbie Douglas. You've read about Debbie. She's become as famous as me, I think. I'm not happy about this, Debbie. We got to put an end to this. No, Debbie's great, and her family ranch in Edwards County is under invasion from the cartels and the illegal aliens. Because of Joe Biden's open border, Debbie has been forced to install steel shutters, steel screens, and reinforced door frames all over her home, including on her 8-year-old granddaughter's bedroom window. She's petrified for the life of her granddaughter. After multiple attempted break-ins and attacks, including an attack when illegal border crossers tried to kick in the door and break through that window, Debbie's granddaughter is too afraid to do anything. She wants to go home. I want to go home, Grandma. I don't want to stay here. I don't want to stay here. This place is so dangerous, Grandma. It's so scary. This whole area is a playground, Debbie says. They basically own it. And 4 years ago, it was safe, and nobody came around because that was Trump, and we had the safest border. We had the best border in the history of our country. But today, that beautiful little granddaughter wants to go anywhere but that bedroom and that house. But she said, I'm not going to fear it. I'm not going to let them run me out of here. Debbie is 45 minutes away from the nearest law enforcement. Without her Second Amendment, she's defenseless. She has no chance. That's why Debbie says we are never out of that house without a gun. We have to have a gun. If we don't have a gun, we're dead people. You can't even go out on the porch to have a cup of coffee without being assaulted with people that have weapons. Debbie, I promise you I will get the trespassers off your land, out of our country, and your granddaughter will look forward to going home with you and sleeping with you in that beautiful little bedroom. So I'd like to ask Debbie to come up and tell us quickly and beautifully about how she's doing. And I can only say you're coming up, you're going to be happy, Debbie, because we're going to solve your problem immediately once we get into office. Debbie, please come up. Thank you. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Debbie.
Hi. My son, Scott Douglas, and I have owned a ranch in Edwards County for 12 years. And sorry to say that over the last 4, since we've had open borders, it's not safe. Used to, we could go out on the property, enjoy the sights. Now, when we drive around, one of us driving, the other one's looking under cedar bushes for legs and movement. We can't even go out on the property around the house without being armed. We can't go out and sit on the porch and drink a cup of coffee without having a gun on us. My granddaughter can't go out and play without having adult supervision, which she used to could. You know, something's got to be done. If we're out on the property, you're always looking over your shoulder to make sure an illegal isn't coming up on you. When you're approaching the gate, one person is sitting in the car with a gun while the other one is unlocking the gate. In my opinion, there's only one man that can change this. There's only one man that can protect our rights as gun owners. There's only one man that can save this country. And there's only one man that can close our borders, and that is President Trump.
Thank you. Whoa, wow. Great woman. Thank you, Debbie. You know, that's sometimes very dangerous to do. Please come up. And they say, and there's only one man, and they say somebody else. I say, that was not good. That was not. But she's an incredible woman and a warrior and a fighter just like you guys, and she's really great, and I appreciate that. I met her son also, and he's fantastic. Real patriots. Joe Biden has heartlessly betrayed his solemn duty to Americans like Debbie, and he sided with the cartels. He's actually sided with these very tough, very smart, very vicious cartels. Crooked Joe does not care one bit about these stories like hers, but I do. I care a lot. Instead of trying to send Texas a restraining order to prevent you from securing your border like Biden has done, I will send you reinforcements. You'll get reinforcements. You're going to get reinforcements. On day one, we will begin the largest deportation effort in the history of our country. It'll be a big one. It'll be a big one, and it'll be something, not that we want to do it. We don't want to do it. We have a big heart, a beautiful heart, but you have to come into our country legally. We're going to change it. We're going to have to come into our country. Isn't it unfair when people are applying to come into our country for 12 years, 14 years, and all of a sudden, millions of people? I believe the real number is 16, 17, 18 million people. By the time we get this guy out of office, who I really believe the vote is, you know, we're leading in polls, but I really believe the vote could be a landslide, because who the hell, we don't want this guy there anymore. He's destroying our country. We don't want him there anymore. As we secure our border, we will also confront the deadly plague of radical Democrat crime that is devouring our country. Every day, radical left Democrat DAs, U.S. attorneys, and judges are setting loose dangerous and bloodthirsty criminals by the hundreds and hundreds and thousands. Joe Biden supports these radical policies. For example, Crooked Joe continues to support abolishing cash bail nationwide. No cash bail. As president, I will stand up to the Marxist DAs and Soros prosecutors, as I have been, by the way, very much over the last couple of years. They have been after me, you may have noticed. And we will give our police back their power and their respect. I am going to indemnify all police officers and law enforcement officials throughout the United States to protect them from being destroyed by the radical left lunatics who are angry that they're taking strong action on crime. We're going to protect them, and we will ensure that any criminal who murders a police officer receives the death penalty and a quick trial. And it's no wonder Joe Biden and his thugs are so desperate to stop us. They know that we are the only ones who can stop them. All of the persecution you're witnessing is only happening because I am running for president and leading in the polls. If I wasn't running, or if I was like so many others that we've now vanquished, there'd be nothing. There'd be nothing. In the latest New York Times poll, they were not happy about this. The New York Times, we're leading in every swing state by massive margins, and we're on track to win a record share of the Hispanic American votes this November. And likewise, we're doing record numbers with the African American voters. They are tired of what's happening to them. And honestly, there's been no president since Abraham Lincoln, and perhaps in a certain way, including Abraham Lincoln, but there's been no president since Abraham Lincoln that has done more for the black individual in this country than President Donald J. Trump. There's been nobody, not even close. Colleges and universities, criminal justice reform, opportunity zones. Tim Scott did a great job with the opportunity zones, Tim Scott of South Carolina. And we've done more for African Americans than any other president since Lincoln. Let's give Lincoln his due. Okay? But that's the way it is. The Democrats are all talk, no action. I was little talk and total action. The radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election in 2020, and we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election in 2024. Every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, and fascists indict me, I consider it a great badge of honor. I'm being indicted for you, and never forget, our enemies want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. I just happen to be standing in their way. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after we win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled, and we will restore, as we had just 4 years ago, peace through strength. They respected our country, and they respected your president. I will support Israel's right to win its war on terror. On day one, I will cancel Joe Biden's absolutely insane electric vehicle mandate. And we are going to tell Texas energy workers like never before to drill, baby, drill. And as a group, and this is a big group and a beautiful group, and you go right into the deep corners of this big room, but I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. But we're in this together. We got to save our country. And I think while we're here, we have to talk about the question of abortion. It's a very big issue, as you know, in our country, because we have to do the right thing, and we also have to get elected. We have a combination. We have to do the right thing, but we have to get elected. We've gotten abortion out of the federal government. You know, for years and years, that's what they wanted. Everybody said, we have to take it away, legal scholars. And we got it back to the states, the way that all of these scholars and experts in law always wanted it and always said it should be. This was the big question. We have to take it out. That's why they hated Roe v. Wade, because it was a federal issue. It wasn't a state issue. They wanted to bring it back to the states and to the people. And it's now up to the will of the people in each state. It's something that nobody can believe we're able to get done. And it's happening, and it's happening rapidly. It's moving along very rapidly. You saw that Nevada just changed their law, and it's going to go to a vote. You saw that Ohio, and in all fairness, they came out on the much more liberal side, if we can use that term. Kansas, likewise, great states, both great states, came out much more liberal in terms of this issue than some people would have thought. But the vote is the vote, and it's the will of the people. Some states will be more conservative and others will be more liberal. But the people will decide, and that's the way it should be, and that's the way people have wanted it to be for many, many decades. If the radical Democrat extremists get their way, they will have a federal law for abortion in the 7th, 8th, 9th month, and even executing a baby after birth. If you look at, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he said, yes, we'll have the patient, the woman brought in the 9th month, and if the baby is born, we will sit down and we will talk to the woman and we'll decide whether or not she wants to dispose of the baby. This is a Democrat, radical Democrat. They want abortion, and they fully allow, and in some cases they have a mandate, they allow abortions in the 7th, 8th, 9th month, and even after birth. And you can't have that. So the fact is, they're the radical ones on this issue, not you. They're the radical ones. But every voter has to go with your heart and do what's right. But we also have to remember that politicians, to do many other things, have to get elected. And I want to thank the 6 Supreme Court justices, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, John Roberts, Brett Kavanaugh, Neil Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett for the wisdom and courage they showed on this long-term, very contentious issue. They did what's been wanted for many, many years. Getting it back to the states puts the question where it belongs, with the vote of the people, and over time it will all work out. It is already working out at a rapid rate, and our country can finally come together on this very contentious topic. And I think it's something we have to talk about, because you just have to talk about it. In my opinion, Republicans have not been talking about it intelligently. They haven't been talking about it with knowledge, or they were just wedded to something. But remember, speak from your heart, but you also have to get elected. Again, that's common sense, because we have many things to do, very big issues. Like this issue is a big issue, very big issues. So we did something that nobody thought could be done. And, you know, if you go back 10 years, 12 years, the only issue with Roe v. Wade was getting it back to the states where it belongs. And then with time, it gets to be very complex. No, the people are deciding, and they're deciding at a rapid pace. And some will be happy, some won't be happy. But that's true of almost everything that's contentious. But it's been an amazing thing, and people are working very hard to try and get their points across, and they're dealing with their states. And a lot of things are working out very, very well. So it's a very important thing, and I just hope that the Republicans learn how to speak about it properly and with intelligence and with heart. We're going to rebuild our cities into beacons of hope, safety, and beauty, better than they have ever been before. We will take over the horribly run capital of our nation, Washington, D.C. It's like a murder capital of the world, and clean up, renovate, and rebuild our wonderful capital, so that it no longer is a nightmare of murder and crime, but rather it will become the most beautiful capital anywhere in the world. We're going to renovate and rebuild, and we're going to take the graffiti out. I was there recently on a court case, of course, court case. I get so many court cases. I'm going to end up being Clarence Darrow. I'm going to end up being one of the greatest of all time. I'm becoming a great expert at the law, and I'm driving into a federal courthouse, and the graffiti all over the place is unbelievable. It's staggering. The roads are full of potholes. The medians in the middle, you know, the guardrails are all broken and laying, some of them literally laying in the street. The garbage is piled up and disgusting. Cans are laying there for many months. You know, you look at a can, I know how long it's been there. Some of them have been there for, I would say, more than a year. It's filthy dirty. We're going to make our capital strong again. We're going to run our capital. We're going to take our capital over by the federal government. It's going to run properly, not the way it's run right now. It's a murder capital. People are being murdered every single week, murdered. They leave the great state of Texas to go see our capital. They want to see our monuments, which some want ripped down. Remember when I passed a law when they were starting to get a little bit crazy in Washington? And I passed a law that anybody that touches a monument goes to jail for 10 years, not 6 years or 9 years or 9.5, 10 years, mandatory. And everybody left. It was amazing. It was a beautiful thing to watch. Everybody just left. We have to be strong on things like that. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto the lives of our children. And I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. And also on day one, I will keep men out of women's sports. We will protect innocent life and we will restore free speech in America. And I will secure our elections. And by the way, our goal on election will be one-day voting with paper ballots, proof of citizenship, and voter ID. It's very simple. Very simple. But until then, Republicans must win. And gun owners must vote. You must go and vote. We want a landslide that is, here's the expression, too big to rig. Does that make sense? Because, you know, you get, at a certain point, you get big enough with the victory and they can't do anything. That's the ultimate form of winning anyway. If you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction to our country as Joe Biden and the Biden administration has done. And now I think I could add more. You know, if you were with me 6 months ago, and I think everybody was, I used to say the 5 worst. Now I say the 10 worst. I think I could probably say the 15 or 20 worst. He's the worst president we've ever had. The good news is Jimmy Carter is happy because Jimmy Carter's presidency is brilliant by comparison. Jimmy had a brilliant presidency by comparison to this guy, this horrible, horrible president that we have right now. Jimmy Carter had a brilliant presidency. So if you want to save America in your Second Amendment, register, get an absentee or mail-in ballot, vote early or vote on election day, I don't care. But whatever you do, you have to vote, and keep your eyes open. When you see thievery and theft, you report it. We're not going to have COVID where they can cheat and use COVID to cheat. This election season in Texas begins on October 19th. Think of that. We're so close, and yet it seems so far away. We're so close, but 4 months and 5 months is actually, in this world, it's an eternity. You could have a world war during this period of time. But it begins on October 19th and goes all the way to November 5th. Today we are also announcing the launch of Gun Owners for Trump. Gun Owners for Trump. And this is to get out the vote. Sign up at gunowners.donaldjtrump.com. Get out there and do it. We have to get the votes. And remember, what I told you is so true. The gun owners don't vote. It's so crazy. They should be, I would think that they would vote more than any other group of people. And it's just the opposite. They don't vote. And they have to get out and vote. So tell all your friends, leave here. I hope you're having a good time. Are you having a good time considering the subject matter is so terrible? So this is going to be, again, the most important election in the history of our country. I used to say it on 2016, but that was peanuts by comparison. I ran on the border in 2016, but that border was like fantastic compared to the border we have now. I solved the border problem, so much so that I couldn't use it in the 2020 speeches. I kept saying to my people, can I talk about the border, please? They said, sir, you've solved the problem. Nobody wants to hear about it. I said, that's not appropriate, but they were right. And yet we won by millions of votes more than we did in 2016 without talking about the border. But now the border is at a level that nobody's ever seen. There's never been a border in the world, in the history of the world, that's like this. This is a horror show. In conclusion, together, We are taking on some of the most menacing forces and vicious opponents our people have ever seen. But no matter how hateful and corrupt the communists and criminals we're fighting against may be, you must never forget this nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you. This is your home. This is your heritage. And our American liberty is your God-given right. From Beaumont to El Paso, from Fort Worth to Corpus Christi, and from Midland to Dallas, this state was won by God-fearing, hard-working patriots like the men and women in this room today. Incredible people. It's an incredible state. You have a great governor. You have a great lieutenant governor. You have incredible Congress people. You have just fantastic people. The Texas spirit of proud independence was forged by cowboys and cattle hands, ranchers and rangers, oil workers, soldiers, and brave, brave, brave pioneers. Many came here with nothing but the boots on their feet, the clothes on their back, and the gun in their saddle. But they turned this state into a home of freedom, justice, and liberty, and they raised the flag high and dared any foe to come and take it. Do you know what that is? Come and take it. Come and take it. Together they helped make America into the single greatest nation in the history of the world. But now, we are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has the highest inflation in 58 years, where banks are collapsing and interest rates are skyrocketing. Likewise, we are a nation where energy costs have reached the highest levels in our history. We are no longer energy independent or energy dominant as we were just a few short years ago. We are a nation that is begging Venezuela and others for oil. Please, please, please help us, Joe Biden says. Yet we have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country anywhere in the world. We are a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will be reducing their oil production while at the same time substantially increasing the price. And we met that threat by announcing that we will no longer be drilling for oil in large areas of Alaska or elsewhere in our land. We gave up Anwar, the greatest reserve perhaps anywhere in the world. We are a nation that is consumed by the radical left's Green New Deal. Yet everybody knows that the Green New scam is fake and will lead to our destruction. We are a nation whose leaders are demanding all electric cars, despite the fact that they don't go far, they cost too much, and whose batteries are produced in China with materials only available in China, when an unlimited amount of gasoline is available inexpensively in the United States, but it is not available in China. And now we are a nation that wants to make our revered and very powerful army tanks the best anywhere in the world, all electric, so that despite the fact that they also are not able to go far, fewer pollutants will be released into the air as we blast our way through enemy territory in an environmentally friendly way. And they also want to make our fighter jets with a green stamp of energy savings, though losing 15% efficiency, but allowing us to keep our enemy's atmosphere clean of emissions as we viciously and unceremoniously attack them at levels never seen before. Where and who are these people that would do this to our country? Who are these people who would ruin us and make us look like fools? We are a nation that ended oil exploration and production in the U.S. just as the price of oil reached an all-time high. What other country would do such a stupid thing and so self-destructive yet? Can we be energy independent and even energy dominant again? Yes, oh yes, and quickly, says President Trump. Yes, oh yes, and quickly. We are a nation that surrendered in Afghanistan, leaving dead soldiers, American citizens, and $85 billion worth of the finest military equipment in the world behind, and also abandoning Bagram, one of the biggest military bases anywhere in the world, and only 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. And we are a nation that allowed Russia and Ukraine to fight, killing hundreds of thousands of people, and it will only get worse. It would never have happened with me as your president, and for 4 straight years, it didn't happen. Likewise, the horrifying attack on Israel would never have happened. They wouldn't have even had a thought of doing such a thing if President Trump was in the Oval Office. Iran was broke under the Trump administration. They didn't have the money to fund Hamas or Hezbollah and all of the other instruments of terror that they used to finance. But those sanctions were lifted by a corrupt Biden administration, and now Iran is a rich country with $200 billion and another $6 billion for hostages and $10 billion for electricity to Iraq, all compliments of the incompetent Biden administration. And China, with Taiwan, is next. We are a nation that allows radical left terrorists to violently attack our cities, leaving behind massive destruction and death, and nothing happens to the criminals that do these terrible things. There is no punishment. But when people who love our country protest on January 6th in Washington, they become hostages, unfairly imprisoned for long periods of time. We are a third world nation that has weaponized its law enforcement against the opposing political party like never before. We've got a federal Bureau of Investigation that won't allow bad election-changing facts to be presented to the public, and which offers $1 million to a writer of fiction about Donald Trump to lie and say it was fact. Where Hunter Biden's laptop from hell was Russian disinformation, and the FBI knew it wasn't, but 51 intelligence agents said it was, and the Department of Justice that refuses to investigate egregious acts of voting irregularities and fraud. And we have a man who is totally corrupt and the worst president in the history of our country, who is cognitively impaired, in no condition to lead, and is now in charge of dealing with Russia and possible nuclear war, which would be World War III and far more devastating than any of the previous world wars because of the weaponry that no one even wants to think about. We are a nation that no longer has a free and fair press. Fake news is all you get, and they are indeed the enemy of the people. They refuse to discuss the Biden crime family, but enjoy covering the false indictments of Donald J. Trump, who has done nothing wrong except win an election against Hillary Clinton, which some people thought he was unexpected to win. We are a nation that, with free speech no longer allowed, and it is no longer allowed, and if we don't win the next election, it never will be allowed again, and where crime is rampant and out of control like never, ever before. We are a nation that is allowing Iran to build a massive nuclear weapon and China to use the trillions and trillions of dollars it has taken from us to build a military to rival our own. And less than 4 years ago, we had Iran, China, Russia, and North Korea in check. They respected us. They were afraid of us. They weren't going to do a thing against us, and everyone knows it. Now Russia and China are holding summits to carve up the world and to become partners. And perhaps most importantly, we're a nation that is no longer admired, respected, or listened to on the world stage. We are a nation that in many ways has become a joke. We are a nation that is hostile to liberty, freedom, faith, and even God. We are a nation whose economy is collapsing into a cesspool of ruin, whose supply chain is broken, whose stores are not stocked, whose deliveries are not coming, and whose educational system is ranked at the bottom of every single list. We are a nation that just sold a once great company, United States Steel, to Japan. We are a nation whose stock market's continued success is contingent on Maga winning the next election. We are a nation where large packs of sadistic criminals and thieves are allowed to go into stores and openly rob them, beat up and kill their workers and customers, and leave with armloads of goods, but with no retribution. Where the authority of our great police has been taken, where their families and pensions have been threatened, and their lives would be destroyed for the mere mention of the words law enforcement. We are a nation where fentanyl and all other forms of illegal drugs are easier to get than groceries to feed our beautiful families. We have become a drug-infested, crime-ridden nation, which is incapable of solving even the simplest of problems. We will institute the powerful death penalty for drug dealers, where each dealer is responsible for the death during their lives of at least 500 people or more. Mothers will never again be forced to watch their children overdosing and hopelessly dying in their arms, screaming, "What can I do? What can I do?" We are a nation whose once revered airports are dirty, crowded mess. You sit and wait for hours and then are notified that the plane won't leave, and they have no idea when they will, where the ticket prices have tripled. They don't have the pilots to fly the planes. They don't seek the qualified air traffic controllers, and they just don't know what the hell they're doing. We are a nation that screens its citizens viciously at all ports, but if you're an illegal alien, you're allowed to flow through the border by the millions and millions and millions. We are a nation that has lost its confidence, willpower, and strength. We are a nation that has quite simply lost its way. But we are not going to allow this horror to continue. Less than 4 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again. It was the hard-working patriots like you who built this country, and it is the hard-working patriots like you who are going to save our country. We will fight for America like no one has ever fought before. 2024 is our final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media. We will drain the swamp, and we will liberate our country from these tyrants and villains once and for all. Like those patriots before us, we will not bend. We will not break. We will not yield. We will never give in. We will never give up. We will never, ever, ever, ever back down. With your support, we will go on to victory, the likes of which no one has ever seen. And we will evict crooked Joe Biden from the White House on November 5th, 2024. The great silent majority is rising like never before. And under our leadership, the forgotten man and woman will be forgotten no longer. We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. And together, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. We will make America free again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much to the NRA, and thank you, Texas. Thank you very much. God bless you all. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you.